Most people think they are exempt from philosophical inquiry. Yet the simple assumption that you are a physical body existing in a material universe, a belief virtually everyone shares, is itself philosophy, and rather questionable philosophy at that. This worldview, known as materialism, fundamentally shapes how we approach life and understand reality. To navigate the world, we inevitably develop explanations for what reality is, and in our society, materialism serves as the predominant philosophical framework through which we interpret and relate to existence. One of the worst implications of materialism is the unshakable belief in death. According to this view, consciousness emerges from the complex interactions of material particles in the brain. If you take for granted this explanation of consciousness, you perceive yourself as a sort of meat machine. Once the machine wears out, it will be the end of what it means to be you. In order to deal with everyday reality, we push down this knowledge, but we can never get rid of it completely. The denial of death creates a constant background of existential anxiety. Whatever you accomplish, build, or achieve, you remain aware somewhere in the depths of your mind that all your efforts are merely distractions from the impending doom of death. You cannot simultaneously believe in the reality of death and experience genuine peace with existence. But it doesn't have to stay this way. You can realize and experience firsthand your true nature as eternal consciousness. As it turns out, materialism is wrong. Death is impossible, and you aren't just a bag of flesh and bones. The good news is that what you fundamentally are is eternal. The bad news is that everything you think you are is false and must be discarded in order to reveal what you truly are. You can discover the unreality of death because death is nothing more than a concept manufactured by the ego, the illusory self that tricks you into believing you're separate from the cosmos. Every authentic spiritual practice ultimately aims toward the dissolution of personal identity. By implementing specific spiritual practices and contemplating the nature of reality, anyone can realize the illusory nature of death without causing any harm to the body. You are not a body, you are consciousness which has mistakenly identified with a body. When I use the term consciousness, I'm pointing to this very moment, the totality of what is happening right here, right now. More precisely, consciousness is the union of perceiver, perception, perceived. Put simply, you are everything you have ever experienced and will ever experience. Your true identity is infinity itself. The present moment, which is what you truly are, is identified with a separate part of reality. From this separation, the fear of death arises. As soon as the dualities of self, other, and subject-object are created, the idea that what I consider to be me might cease to exist appears. To exist as a separate self, you must first construct the fundamental duality of self and other. You must believe in a universe out there to enjoy the apparent privilege of existing as a distinct entity separate from everything else. This is how the illusion of separation is created. Every explanation we construct about reality serves as an elaborate strategy to avoid one undeniable truth. Nothing exists apart from the present moment. The present moment is what religions refer to as God. The only game in town is to constantly deny that what is occurring in the present is not the absolute itself, We use every belief we have about reality as a form of self-deception in order to ignore the astonishing simplicity of absolute truth. This, here, right now, is God. To maintain the illusion of being a separate self apart from the present, you must continuously explain away the miracle of being itself. Otherwise, the ego's house of cards would crumble. To realize eternity, you have to give up all your lies. To help you understand the process of identification, let's analyze an ordinary object like a cup. Imagine identifying with a cup. As soon as you've identified with it, you'll start worrying about prolonging its survival. If I were to throw the cup to the ground and break it into countless pieces, you would experience a form of death, the dissolution of your assumed identity. Obviously, you don't care about a random cup because it holds no significance for you, and you don't typically identify with such objects. But if instead of the cup, you had identified with a person, with an object you care about, with a situation, or with a label, you would be very concerned about the survival of what you've identified with. The same dynamic unfolds when consciousness identifies with the body. Consciousness, which is actually the eternal present moment, contracts and mistakes itself for a limited form. Yet the eternal present moment cannot cease to exist, precisely because it has no outside. It is the absolute itself. The concept of death arises from our belief in the existence of a future. If you could truly recognize the unreality of the future, you would simultaneously understand the impossibility of death. The present moment, everything unfolding right now, is eternal for the simple reason that it exists. Death is impossible because there is no reality outside of the present moment. The universe is nothing other than your own consciousness. There is no material world apart from what you are. Everything you interact with is your own consciousness. Reality is a single phenomenal field, and you are this field. From the absolute standpoint, there is no one else to interact with, because others are you. Everything is your own subjectivity. Everything is your own self. If the unified nature of reality seems difficult to accept, it's because we are so accustomed to take separation and materialism for granted. However, when we examine this belief closely, we discover something remarkable. No one has ever proven that there is an actual material universe out there. It's impossible to prove the existence of anything beyond your direct, subjective experience of reality. You cannot prove to me that you exist as an entity separate from myself. The very fact that I can perceive the external world reveals my fundamental unity with what I'm perceiving. It doesn't prove my separation from it. Even if you were to pinch my arm to prove your independent existence, you would have demonstrated nothing beyond my subjective experience of you. We cannot prove the existence of a material world separate from the consciousness that perceives it, for the simple reason that no such separate material world exists. Obviously, it's equally impossible for me to prove to you that I am your same consciousness. To realize the mental nature of reality, you have to destroy all your ideas and assumptions you have about reality. The idea that you are a body and the idea that reality is material are just assumptions. Once every false belief has been abandoned, what is true will emerge. Death is one of the main pillars of the ego's thought system because it gives stability to the idea of being a body which can perish. You need death to give stability to the belief of being a separate self in a material world. Death is a cherished friend of the ego, because if you are the body, it follows there is a material reality apart from yourself, and you can keep existing as an identity separate from such material reality. The ego needs death to be alive. On the other hand, if you discovered that there is no material reality external to your subjectivity, you would have to face the annihilation of your separate identity. It is thanks to the belief in the existence of the other that I can exist as an entity separate from the other. Without the other, I could not exist as a self. Without the idea of a you would be me. It's so difficult to accept everything you are hearing because your entire identity is built on the certainty of being a body inhabiting a material universe. The belief in death protects the ego from ever discovering its non-existence. That's why the mind will use every form of self-deception to prevent the realization that death is unreal and the present moment is eternal. The greatest mystics throughout history have affirmed that death is unreal because there isn't an external material reality apart from consciousness. The universe is your own consciousness. At the moment of death, the only thing that will die is the belief in the existence of an entity apart from reality. The notion of an external material world independent of consciousness is merely an assumption, not a proven fact. Consciousness contracts and identifies with the body, a limited part of itself, but consciousness doesn't have a cause. You aren't conscious because you have a body. You are conscious because you are consciousness. If you stop imagining the possibility of a future and of something else other than your current field of experiences, you will realize that you are eternal. The present moment is eternity. The present moment is ultimate reality. You are a single infinite field of consciousness. You are life.